Thank you for joining me on 13 Plus. I'm Cali Lichter, and this is On the Docket, a weekly recap of crime and court in and around the state of Michigan. This week, what the community is saying as gun violence plagues Muskegon Heights. Plus, we have updates on the fatal officer-involved shooting of Daquan Johnson in Grand Rapids, and how justice and mercy played into a man's second-degree murder sentencing for a fatal drunk driving crash that killed an 8-month-old baby. All that and more is On the Docket. Police are investigating 2 more shootings in Muskegon Heights, one of them deadly. These shootings happened on March 3rd, nearly a block apart. It's the latest of the string of gun violence neighbors say is taking over the area.
More gunfire Tuesday evening in an already shaken Muskegon Heights community.
I went straight to looking out the window and watched the guys start running down the alley.
A witness heard the first set of shots that went off just before 5 p.m. He says he saw someone running down an alley while being fired upon.
He ended up getting back up after tripping right here and firing back at them. And then he just took off from here. I lost sight of him, but the 2 people that were over there at the pawn shop saw him run and get into some SUV over here. And there was a guy down on the ground, and once the cops showed up, rolled him over, tried to resuscitate him. It didn't look like he was moving.
The uncle of the victim was on scene and told 13 on Your Side that his nephew was dead from gunshot wounds. Muskegon Heights police confirm a male victim died. Muskegon Heights police also say a second shooting occurred 200 yards away as they were still securing the scene from the initial shooting. Police say someone arrived at the hospital with gunshot wounds believed to be related to this second shooting. This comes amid a string of shooting incidents in the Muskegon area since last week. The witness we spoke with acknowledged the recent violence.
It's definitely work because, I don't want to be shot. I'm just trying to live.
He says that he believes some neighborhoods in the area are safer than others.
It depends on the parts. And, there's just always some bad people in certain areas, and it's really random.
The man killed in the shooting was identified by family as Robert Fletcher Jr. That fatal shooting and the other shooting happened just days before a meeting aimed to stop the violence.
You can hear the pain in his voice.
It seemed like every day is something new.
As Councilman William Kitchen,
Muskegon Heights has always had violent episodes, but this seems to be a little bit different.
Talks about the gun violence that's plaguing his city.
I'm tired of mothers and fathers having to bury their sons and daughters. I'm tired of our mothers and fathers losing their kids to the prison system.
His sentiments come after a string of shootings that have claimed the lives of people in Muskegon Heights. And now he and others want to make a change.
I'm hoping it's the launching pad of the mobilization of people that will stand up and help combat what we have going on here in the city.
Leaders are hosting a town hall on Thursday that was initially created after the death of Tavon Watson a week ago. But tragedy struck before that meeting even happened. When Robert Fletcher Jr., also known as Chino, lost his life from a shooting near Ray Street on Tuesday.
We ain't moving fast enough. When lives are on the line, leadership cannot move at a snail's pace. We're not moving fast enough.
Which is why Kitchen wants everyone to come out on Thursday and figure out any solutions to stop the violence.
The power has and will always be in the hands of the people, but somehow the people have forgotten that they possess that power because they have lost faith, hope, and confidence in our leadership. And so right now we want to figure out how do we heal and how do we restore that power to the people.
A type of power he says he knows the people in his city will use for good.
We've been through a lot. We've endured a lot. So we'll endure this. We'll get through this. But it's how we come out on the other side that's important.
Fletcher's family calls his death senseless. The day after his death, a vigil was held for the latest victim of gun violence in the city.
2, 3,
Friends and family of 26-year-old Robert Fletcher Jr. gathered at his neighborhood in Muskegon Heights to remember him. He was shot and killed Tuesday afternoon, one of the latest cases of gun violence in the community.
Because I'm used to seeing him coming upstairs, or that laugh that he had, or he was just a good person. He didn't bother nobody for nobody to do that to him.
Fletcher's stepmom, Marquita Render, spoke of their close relationship, calling his killing senseless. She says she lost her own son to gun violence 11 years ago.
I know how it feels to lose a kid. It's hard, We shouldn't have to bury our kids. They're supposed to bury us, So we're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it. By the grace of God.
Delilah Wycliffe is the grandmother of Fletcher's stepdaughter, Zariah. She spoke about the surge of gun violence in the community.
It's a lot that could be done. All situations are different, so I really don't know what to say. I just stay out of the way and keep mine close to me.
Zariah spoke about how giving her stepfather was.
He spent his last money on me. He just basically gave me everything, and I don't know what.
He did anything for my granddaughter, and she's only 7. So I'm just hurt because all I can do is be here for her, and that's all I can do is be here for my grandbaby.
Local leaders and community members want to put a stop to this gun violence. A large crowd attended a town hall on March 5th, where the police chief and other city leaders heard concerns and discussed potential solutions.
This is what our soldiers come back with because they have to live and function in active war zones. Well, I'm here to tell you that our children are suffering from PTSD because Howden Street, Hoyt Street, Sherman, Sanford, Jefferson is an active war zone.
Town hall moderator and teacher Darius Mitchell says children in Muskegon Heights are suffering. He led a series of discussions Thursday at Muskegon Heights City Hall, ultimately centered on rising gun violence among young people in the community. Police Chief Maurice Sain says there's been a lack of cooperation from the public regarding what led up to the shooting death of 15-year-old Tavon Watson.
It would be disappointing when we have these kind of incidents and we don't have people from the community to come forth with information that can help us solve crime.
Sain did say that community cooperation has led the department to persons of interest in the shooting this week that took the life of 26-year-old Robert Fletcher Jr. Many community members spoke at the meeting about potential solutions.
This is an issue that hits close to home, because I've been through it. And in order to change it, there's things that have to change in our community and how we connect to each other.
Community member Blake Johnson himself was incarcerated and called for community support and action to prevent violence, saying the community needs to be better connected.
I know when I was out here causing havoc, it was because I didn't feel loved. And if I don't feel loved, why do I have to give love to anything else? The community itself is responsible for providing that connectivity.
Aside from public safety, the more than 3-hour-long discussion also focused on what leaders say are some of the issues at the root of the problem, including mental health and education. And next on the docket, we bring you the latest on the fatal officer-involved shooting in Grand Rapids. Where the investigation stands is next on the docket. 2 weeks after the deadly officer-involved shooting of Daquan Johnson in Grand Rapids, the investigation landed on the desk of the Kent County prosecutor. But this is not the final step, as the prosecutor says he needs more information. There are still mixed feelings on what the outcome of the case will be, but looking at previous officer-involved shootings, we may not hear that decision anytime soon. As Michigan State Police hand over the report on the fatal Grand Rapids police officer-involved shooting of Daquan Johnson to the Kent County prosecutor, Johnson's mother, Angelica, questions the possible outcome.
How many other cases has he had involving our people being shot by the police?
Kent County prosecutor Chris Becker says he received materials from MSP yesterday, but has requested follow-up on certain items. He does not have a timeline on when a decision will be made. Kent County Commissioner Robert S. Womack thinks Becker is doing the right thing by asking all of the questions.
And the fact that he's looking at this closer means he didn't already have an opinion set in his mind. So when that evidence came to him, he did what a Kent County prosecutor is supposed to do. Ask for more information if he believes it's there.
Community members believe Johnson's death echoes the fatal officer-involved shooting of Patrick Loyola, with that case ending in a hung jury and charges being dropped against former officer Christopher Scher. Womack understands the community's unease.
He's always going to have concern because there's never been an officer convicted of killing anyone in this community or the state that we know of.
And although he is hopeful because Becker is the only prosecutor he knows of that is charged a GRPD officer with murder, he believes the state attorney general should handle these cases. After Loyola was killed in April 2022, it took MSP around 3 weeks to hand over the case to Becker. Around 3 weeks later, Becker said he was asking follow-up questions and needed additional expert guidance beyond the scope of MSP. 6 weeks after being handed the initial investigation, Becker announced second-degree murder charges against Scher. For previous officer-involved shootings, 6 weeks was around the time it took between the incident occurring and Becker announcing his decision. Every case is different, but if Becker's decision follows recent timelines, we could hear a decision by mid-April. And that same day, Johnson's family and friends held a celebration of life at Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church in Grand Rapids. Our Micah Cho shares the message from the pastor and Johnson's mom.
Throughout the 2-hour-long service, Pastor Daryl Gaddy made the theme of his message very clear. He and the family of Daquan Johnson want justice. I spoke with Angelica Johnson just moments after the funeral, and she told me now that the mourning is done, they are going to work on that justice.
We are grieving, but we're grieving with purpose. We start our grief, but we move forward with purpose, recognizing that it's because of what occurred on that evening with Daquan that we find ourselves being called again to action, knowing that God is still a deliverer.
Pastor Daryl Gaddy made his position known Wednesday afternoon when it comes to how Daquan Johnson died on February 18. He spent most of his eulogy saying his community wants justice.
I need the people, I need my folks to understand that we must cry for justice for Daquan. It is not merely a personal lament, but a communal calling. Our hearts ache.
Daquan's mother, Angelica, agreed with the pastor's sermon.
After today, Justice Eye starts tomorrow. So I won't elaborate on it too much, but I will get justice. Trust in God, my Savior, the one.
Kent County Commissioner Robert Womack, who has been working with the Johnson family since the shooting, says the family noticed the community support at the service.
The mother needed that support from the community, but she's going to need this support way further than just the funeral. So I hope people stay tapped in to support this family in every way that they need it.
In Grand Rapids, Micah Cho, 13 on your side.
The shooting is raising questions about interactions between police and people in the community. I looked into the officer-involved shootings in Grand Rapids in the past 4 years, and this is what I found.
That is extraordinarily abnormal.
12 officer-involved shootings in the city of Grand Rapids, all since April 2022.
Hey, ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire!
All situations are different, but former Grand Rapids police officer and de-escalation expert John Riley says this was not the norm when he was with the agency.
I mean, I could be way off, but it was literally like maybe 1 every 3 years. I mean, it was so rare.
9 out of the 12 officer-involved shootings occurred in the southeast side of the city, 1 on the northeast side, and 2 on the west side. With the most recent information we have, 7 of those were non-fatal shootings, 4 were deadly, and 1 was fatal from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. 4 of those shootings have happened in the past 5 months. Riley says it comes down to a societal shift.
The narrative and the rhetoric would stop, and people would actually start promoting an effort to go back to civility and law-abidingness and respect to authority. Within a month, there could be a dramatic change.
Kent County Commissioner Robert S. Womack says there's also a shift during leadership changes.
They know who they're representing, and you can feel a little of that representation of that chief coming out into the street. And then during transition, we just notice, we don't know why that phenomenon is there, but it's a lot different.
Police Chief Eric Windstrom was in the position for around a month before the fatal shooting of Patrick Loyola and is leaving a little over a week after the deadly shooting of Daquan Johnson. Womack also believes that part of the issue is over-policing in certain areas of the city.
Their neighborhood don't have people U-turning on you when you're riding a bicycle. They don't have people U-turning on you when you're driving down the street.
But he also acknowledges the balance between saving lives and a need to curb violence.
To continue to get these guns off the street, but we need to let them understand that sanctity of life that they promised. They need to also be thinking about that and have that balance as they also balance that their lives are on the line.
Those community concerns were echoed by the NAACP Greater Grand Rapids. Branch President Clee Jackson called for transparency and what he calls actual reform from the Grand Rapids Police Department following Johnson's death and Chief Winstrom's departure. A call for accountability and transparency.
And real consequences for those who violate policy, engage in sanctioned violence, state violence, or act with disregard for human life.
The Greater Grand Rapids NAACP and community leaders called on the Grand Rapids Police Department and the city to do more in the aftermath of Daquan Johnson's officer-involved shooting death earlier this month.
We know that the chief has indicated that he's not releasing any more footage. That's unacceptable. It is totally unacceptable.
Greater Grand Rapids NAACP President Clee Jackson says they have a list of demands for the Grand Rapids Police Department, which includes pausing the search for a new police chief until the process includes direct community input.
We must ask the hard questions. Will policy reform alone bring about change? The answer, we believe, is no.
Legal Redress Chair Stephen Drew grew up in the community and questions why simple law enforcement procedures end violently.
Why are there issues of traffic stops escalating into arrests for resisting and this and that and felonies for normal citizens, for every citizen?
And other Grand Rapids NAACP leaders acknowledge the changes made, but says it needs to go deeper to fix systematic issues.
We're not just focused on the what, we're also focused on the how. In other words, how are you developing your policy? How are you engaging in trainings with your law enforcement?
GRPD says they are not releasing any more information, including body camera footage, as the investigation is handled by Michigan State Police. Next on the docket, we take you into the courtroom for the sentencing of a man who drove drunk and killed an 8-month-old girl. Now the family of the baby says mercy plays into the sentencing next. This week's sentencing breakdown takes us into an Allegan County courtroom where a man learned he will spend 13.5 years in prison for drunk driving and killing 8-month-old Lucia Seyfried. Terry Boss was nearly 3 times the legal limit when he crashed into the little girl's family in April 2025. He pleaded no contest to second-degree murder, according to court records, but the judge in court said he pleaded guilty. The prosecution said Boss went beyond drinking and driving, starting the morning with breakfast Bloody Marys, driving to the golf course and taking shots, and continued drinking at a friend's lake house. They say he then got back into his car, driving off at a concerning speed and manner. We start with the prosecution, who asked to speak before the family so they could be the final words on their side.
This case is about arrogance. Toxic, unrelenting arrogance of a man who believed the rules didn't apply to him, and whose statements right up and through his interview with probation continue to be soaked in entitlement. The one thing every kid hears over and over as they learn to drive, as they head toward their 21st birthday, is don't drink and drive. Don't drink and drive because you might kill somebody. And make absolutely no mistake, the only reason a 13.5-year sentence was offered was solely at the mercy of this family. Because with all due respect to even probation's middle of the guidelines recommendation, that doesn't come near the appropriate sentence under the law and under these facts. If I were arguing what I thought the defendant deserved today, it would be over guidelines. I have never in my career seen a case more deserving, legally or factually, than this one.
Both of Lucia's parents, Rebecca and Matthew, spoke in court. Rebecca addressed Boss directly, telling him that despite their previous written impact statements said their dog, Penny, had passed away this past weekend due to injuries from the crash. When she looked for words for the sentencing, she says the only thing that came to mind was the Lord's Prayer. She says the words reflect how there needs to be forgiveness.
He doesn't say, forgive only when it's convenient. No, forgive those who betray us, just as we seek forgiveness for our own sins. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. He gives us the answers so clearly Evil is whatever temptation leads us away from good. But we can be delivered from evil if we choose it. If we choose forgiveness in ourselves and in others. If we work daily towards the choice of right, the choice of good, to lead ourselves away from temptation, then we can be set free. Terry, God doesn't love Lucia any more than he loves you. And I pray for your soul that you lead yourself from temptation and live the rest of your life in sobriety. And for Lucia's soul and for yours. I forgive you for taking the life of my daughter, Lucia Iris, whose name means light and rainbow, both signs of God's eternal love and promise to us.
She also read letter from Lucia's grandfather, Robert Davis, who couldn't be at the sentencing in person. He said Boss not only killed his granddaughter and their dog that ran out in front of Lucia to protect her, but also injured Matthew in the crash. He lamented the life that she would never get to have. While he told Boss he should be lucky his daughter and son-in-law are forgiving, and he does not hate Boss, he can never forgive him.
Through their example, they have helped me not hate you anymore, but I still cannot forgive you. I pity you. I want you to picture my beautiful Lucia looking down from heaven every day, wondering how you could be so reckless and irresponsible to do this to her and her family. So in closing, something I want you, Mr. Boss, to think about and remember is since April 26th, the day you killed my granddaughter, you have been out of jail more days than she was on this earth.
Matthew Seyfried says he has been able to separate Boss's sin from himself, to be able to hate what he did but not the man. He says it was through love and mercy and forgiveness that he is able to sit in the courtroom and tell Boss he forgives him. Matthew also recounted when he and his wife recently spoke to a youth group about their daughter and the crash, and the two girls left the room. They were Boss's granddaughters who had allegedly not been told the whole story of what happened.
We also came to learn that they had not been told the full truth of your actions, the role that you played in Lucia's death and how preventable it was. One of your granddaughters was crying, saying that he is a good man, while the other was saying, it's okay, God wants us to be here for this. The faith and strength shown by your young granddaughter in that moment was amazing. She had just learned the truth of why her grandpa must go to prison, saw his mugshot on a large screen in front of her friends, and yet she was still able to recognize the presence of Christ in that moment.
He says they continue to talk to the youth group about how one bad choice does not define a person, but rather how they respond to what does.
We shared with them how the choices that you made on April 26th does not make you a bad person. And we shared with them how through the strength that Christ provides, we are able to make the daily decision to forgive you.
Boss's attorney says his client is remorseful for what happened and that everyone says this is out of character for him.
Every person who wrote a character letter on his behalf said the same thing. This conduct was utterly uncharacteristic of Mr. Boss. Again, it's not offered to minimize the harm, but to help the court understand that this tragedy did not arise from a pattern of violence or disregard from human life. It arose from the catastrophic, reckless, and intoxicated decision-making that he made and he cannot undo.
Boss had a letter he read to the court. He says the pain from this accident is undescribable, and he wakes up every morning seeing her face.
To Lucia and their family, I'd like to take this time to express how deeply sorry I am for you and your family. After that day, I've never been the same, and my heart has been broken in so many ways, and the pain is undescribable, but it is real. I wake up every morning seeing her face. It brings me to my knees praying and reminding me of what's happened. I can't even imagine the pain that I brought you or what you're going through. I wouldn't know how to react if it happened to one of my kids. I wake up at times in the middle of the night crying and praying for her and the family. I break down every day wishing there's a way that I could pray and wish that there's a way that I could bring this back, but I can't. I'll always have to live with this for the rest of my life. And after the accident, I have recommitted my walk with God. I've always been a God-fearing man. And I'm praying for the family and their forgiveness. Prayer has become a priority for me, so I will keep praying for your family and mine. And from my heart, I'm deeply and truly sorry for what's happened.
Judge Emily Jipp says this was a very difficult case to hear.
There is no sentence I could hand down that would right the wrongs that were committed here. And I will echo what Ms. Winsemius said, that but for the grace of Lucia's family, you would be spending the rest of your life in prison. But they see, in their own words, that 13.5 years is a balance of justice and mercy. And I will not add insult to injury here and go against their wishes. And I hope and pray that I can show others in the future the grace that you have shown Mr. Boss.
Boss was handed a 13.5-year sentence, which was the request of the family, as Jipp said. There was a maximum sentence, but that felt like just a number that needed to be put on the record. Boss will be 70 years old when he is released from prison, which the family believes is enough time to work on his relationships with his family. On top of that, he must pay $26,246.84 to Lucia's family, plus court costs. And thanks for joining me on this episode of On the Docket on 13 Plus. We have new episodes releasing every week, taking you into the courtroom for the latest updates and deep dives on crime in and around West Michigan. In the meantime, we'll bring you the latest on crime in court, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. And when breaking news affects you and your community, we stream live on 13 Plus with what you need to know, right when you need to know. We'll see you next time with updates on what's on the docket.